Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. I have moved the frame over and I am starting work on the deer's first antler. So I was wondering if I would get to that point, and I have. Yay! And I was hoping to get to 40,000 done by the end of this month. Obviously, that is not a problem because I have less than 100 stitches to go to make that, and I always stitch more than 100 stitches with you all, so I will surpass it. Well, I said I didn't manage to stitch my normal amount last month, so I guess I'll make up for it this month. Alrighty. So there is sort of a mix. There's the antlers here are kind of more confetti, and then there's bigger blocks, so we'll see. I'll probably kind of go back and forth between the two, but I'll decide as I go, as I normally do. Alrighty, so as you can see, I don't really have very many threads attached, but that is going to change over the next hour or so as we start adding the antler colors. I said I did the sort of next to the antler, and now we're doing the antler itself. So oh, that is the wrong color. Grabbed 3072, and that is a grayish color, which is not the correct color. It's 3078. There it is. Okay. I grabbed what I thought was that one. Now we have it, and it's yellow. Again, one really nice thing about Pattern Keeper, if it's a supported pattern, it tells you what, it gives you a little sample of what the color's supposed to look like up there in the top right. So then that can help you from making mistakes. I'll keep you from making them, because as soon as I did that, I went, wait a minute, this is supposed to be yellow. What was in the envelope was not yellow. It was a very pale gray, or like an off-white kind of color. All right. First stitch. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with our summer heat this year. There's supposed to be maybe a kind of burst for a couple of days where it'll get up close to 30 Celsius. But after that, really not much. And I was saying, I was giving my apples, usually, sometimes I start sort of mid-August to do my harvest, but this year they've been taking a lot longer to ripen because I think it just wasn't hot enough and there wasn't enough sun. It was overcast for a lot of it, and we had, of course, the wildfire smoke was blocking the sun out for a lot of it too. So I think it was less than ideal growing conditions this year. Although you wouldn't know it, there's one patient, because I work at a doctor's office, he's a retired guy, and older guy, retired, so he gardens every year because he's got lots of free time. And he always ends up with more than he can eat, so he brings us some, so we get spoiled. So I got a bag of garden fresh carrots in my garden grown carrots in my fridge, and they are delicious. They are so sweet, because of course they were just pulled out of the ground like hours before when he brought them in, so they're as fresh as you can possibly get. I might can some depending on how much I've got. I know you can make, some people I saw a recipe for carrot pickles, but I might just can them as regular, because I do have a pressure canner. If you are canning a low acid food, so food that isn't a fruit like carrots, then you either need to add acid to it in the form of vinegar, or you have to pressure can them because you can't get it hot enough in a boiling water bath to kill off all the potential, deadly bacteria and spores. You do not want to mess around with botulism. It doesn't take more than a spore or two to kill you. So, follow the correct up-to-date techniques. I know a lot of people will think, oh, if it's sealed, then it's safe. Nope. It's got to be processed at a hot enough temperature to be sure that any potentially deadly pathogens have been destroyed. And of course, yeah, we all have that, oh, my grandma did it this way for 50 years and they were fine. Well, she was lucky. That's survivor bias, because the people who did it and they were not safe, well, they didn't get to live long enough to be grandparents, right? So, yeah, do not mess around with your food safety there. Or, of course, you can always freeze. You can always freeze them. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to pressure can. I would get chicken when it was going on clearance, and I would simmer it for a day or so, and then you can the meat and the broth, and it's really delicious. But it is quite an involved process, so I haven't done it in a long time. I still have the pressure canner, but I've mostly used it only for the water canning because, of course, I can all the apple juice and the jam, and because those are high acid fruits, then basically boiling water is enough because the acid sort of does the extra work to destroy anything dangerous in there. And yeah, I had a heartbreaking moment one year when I made homemade pickles and the jar came unsealed on the shelf. So I had to throw the whole thing away, and it was a big 1 liter jar too, so I was really upset because that was a lot of work. Like, you don't really save money, it's just because I wanted to make them myself for fun. And I went to grab a jar of jam, and I noticed the jar of pickles next to it. I'm like, how come half the liquid is gone? And then I poked at the lid and it just slid right off. So it did seal originally, but it must have come unsealed on the shelf. And yeah, and if it was that way long enough that half of the liquid evaporated, it definitely isn't safe, because it's just been sitting there at room temperature for probably a couple of weeks at the least. So sucked to do it, but I wasn't going to take the risk. So I've been giving my apples, I'm going to try and give them the first week or two in September to see if they'll ripen up anymore. And then if not, I will just juice them as is. We'll see how well my new juicer holds up. My old one finally died last year after like 10 years of use. So I got my money's worth out of it. And I went and bought the same brand. I went online because I got my first one from Sears, but Sears went out of business a few years ago. So no go there. And we will see if it still is good quality, because as we know, things are not always up to the same quality. Sometimes the brand goes downhill. Like I was telling someone, I bought a KitchenAid mixer and it wasn't very good. And my uncle said the one he got when he was in culinary school when I was like 5, it still runs great. And the mixer I got lasted 18 months. And even from the beginning, you could kind of hear it clicking and catching and just not powering through it the way you expected it to. But anyway, so my husband's work, they had the 25th anniversary of their radio station, so they had a nice celebration for that. They had a couple live bands, and they raised money for charity. They do a Christmas wish every year. And also they were raising for breast cancer research. was another one of their major sponsors. So we were also fundraising for them. So that was pretty cool. They had some old drum skins from bands that had visited them previously that had been signed by the band. And so they were saying like the first person who comes up here with $100 bill gets it kind of thing. So they had that was pretty cool. That was fun. Only complaint was, once again, the bass was up so high for the live band that it was harder to hear the guitar. And the guitarist was actually really good, the lead guitarist. They started off with Enter Sandman by Metallica. And if you know that song, you know there's a pretty serious guitar, solo in the middle. And he nailed it. But it was hard to hear, unfortunately. What I could hear sounded great, but the bass was quite drowning it out, unfortunately. I mean, I love bass, but I want to be able to hear the guitar too. Oh, the original owners of the radio station, they came out. So that was really cool because they had sold it off years ago when they wanted to retire. And so they came out and everybody, of course, cheered them. And yeah, my husband said they got to visit afterwards. And obviously, since they aren't involved in it anymore, they don't really know much about the day-to-day anymore, but they were really happy that sort of the positive workplace culture that they cultivated from the beginning is still alive and well. And that has definitely been a really good thing. That's one of those things that not everybody is fortunate to have. And when you have it, it is invaluable to have a place where you get along with all the people, and it's just got a really good atmosphere. I mean, I know people will say it's like a family, but I don't know. I've worked for businesses that were like a family and they were like a dysfunctional family. So, but this is like a really good one. Now, I had to leave early because I was really tired, but I left around 9:30. They went for another hour or so. But I took my own car, and I was just like, I am so tired that I don't think I should stay any longer because I don't want to be driving home when I'm not alert. That is not safe. So I am not going to take that risk. And oh, my snore device finally arrived. So I tried it. The only fortunate thing is I said I couldn't really get a good read on how well it did because I made the mistake of drinking pop at the event, and I should never drink pop after 6 p.m. or I have to get up for a lot of the beginning of the night to use the bathroom like several times, like every half hour. So, I mean, really hard to make a decent determination then if I had to keep getting up. And using this tongue holding device, it takes a bit of practice to get used to. And they have a couple different ways to position it. So I was, of course, trying different ways to see what was more comfortable for me. Because they have the part that holds your tongue and then sort of the lip baffles. And they say you can either have them outside of your lips, or some people prefer to have them inside between your lips and your teeth. And so I was trying both to see. And anyway, I ended up having to readjust it so many times that I must have irritated something, and my nose got all swollen up and stuffed, and I couldn't breathe through it. And they say you can breathe through your mouth with this device, but I certainly couldn't. If I did, it just lost suction, so it was useless. So I had to wait a couple of hours for the swelling to go down before I could put it in again and try it. So we'll see. And they said, like, you need to give it at least 2 weeks, maybe even up to a month to really to see any benefits, to get used to it. So we'll see what happens. they said the same thing about the mouth, the one that moves your teeth forward or your jaw forward, but I couldn't stick with it. It made my teeth so sore and my jaw hurt so bad that I just went, yeah, this is not working. So this one I'll try. My tongue feels weird still, but it doesn't hurt. It's not like swollen or anything. It just feels a little strange. But my teeth feel fine. That didn't, they said you can even use them if you don't have teeth, supposedly. So that's good. Not that I'm planning to lose my teeth anytime soon. I should certainly hope not. But it looked like it was lost in the mail, so I ordered a replacement from somewhere else. And then, of course, the day I ordered it that evening, it showed up. It's like, I said, well, they do wear out eventually, so I guess if it works, I'll have some extra. If not, well, they weren't a lot. Such is life. And then if that doesn't work, then I will go to the doctor about seeing if I need a CPAP. But I downloaded a different snore app to monitor, and it showed about the same number of interruptions, but as I said, it wasn't really a fair test because I had to get up more to use the bathroom, and it was my first night using it, so I wasn't very, like I said, getting it in place and getting it comfortable was not so easy because obviously it takes some practice, takes some getting used to, as with many things. So I'll give it a while and we will see how it goes. But I hope it will help. Because as I said, I don't know if my health plan will cover one. And they're quite pricey. And I mean, those apparently have a learning curve too. And not everybody tolerates them well. And I'm thinking, yeah, it'd be just my luck if it didn't. It turned out it didn't help me. But it was funny, one of my good friends was at the party too. I saw her out on the dance floor, so I ran out. We danced together. It was fun. Yeah, so there was one guy who was practically breakdancing out there. He was ready to get that party started. Oh dear. That sounded wrong and it felt wrong. That's better. Trying to form a snarl there. We do not want that. Now I'm going to kind of do some of these bigger bits, kind of row by row. I could do color block by color block if I felt like it too. Sometimes I do that, but I'm just gonna go row by row. So sort of do some of the confetti here, some of the big blocks, some of the confetti. It kind of keeps me from getting frustrated with the confetti and keeps me from getting bored with the big blocks. To alternate between the two like that. It was pretty cool at the party. They brought a lot of alumni back, so some of the people who had worked, because like I said, it's 25 years, so there has been some employee turnover, of course. But people have kept their goodwill. It was a good place to work, even if they did move on to other things. And the main sales manager, he is, I think he's been there from the beginning. So they had some pictures from back then. It was like, oh my gosh, look how much younger he is. 25 years. Ooh. He's got grown kids now. Ooh. So this is kind of the rock face here. And I'm just kind of cutting it off around there. I believe, yeah, that is actually line 200 there, which is the center of the pass. So that's kind of cool. So I'm thinking sometime in October, probably, this second pass will be completed. Definitely by the end of the year. As I said, I'm not sure how much I'll get next month because I will lose some to dealing with my apple harvest, but it does not look like it's going to be a very big one this year. There's fewer apples, and of the apples I do have, they're not very big. Last year, I had, at least on my healthier tree, the old one is dying, the apples were like the size of baseballs, but this year they're more like size of an apricot. So, as I said, it was not as good of a growing season. That's what I tell people. If you want to grow more consistently, I guess you got to have a good greenhouse where you control a lot more of the conditions. Mine is just in the backyard, so I am at the mercy of the weather. I was saying in previous Stitch With Me's, we have a school a couple blocks from my house that had asbestos and toxic mold, so it was a public school. They sold it, and it looks like actually some private school company bought it. Is what it's looking like, because the name on the school building changed, and it was like two buildings with a bit of a hallway. They've kept one building, the other one they tore down. I was saying to my husband, you don't realize how much material goes into a building till you see it sitting in big piles of rubble. And that took them a while. That took them, oh sheesh, I would say a month to clear that. Now they've put in some more soil, or fill, they call it. So we're not sure if they're just going to make it a field, or if they're going to rebuild another building on that lot or not. Can't tell yet. Right now they're, like I said, filling it and they're packing it down. So it could be to put grass on top, or it could be to put foundation on top. Who knows? But it will be a school. Wasn't sure what it was going to be, but they decided to keep it as a school. They said it was not worth it for the city to do all the work that it needed to make it safe for use again. But I guess whoever bought it has the money to invest in that. So we'll see. I'm not sure if they're going to open in September, or if it's going to be a while, if they're ready yet or not, for the one that's still standing. Oh, silly me, there was already one parked there yet. I should have paid more attention. It's right there. And I even marked it too. I just, like I said, was not paying attention. Pulled up an end there. There we go. Coax that back. I find if I keep stitching and then try to fix it later, sometimes it gets pulled with the fibers and stitched into, and then it is almost impossible to untangle at that point, which is a big pain. So, ounce of prevention, as they say, versus the pound of cure. That's better. I was kind of overlapping the leg of that stitch instead of going next to it, which is what I wanted it to do. Done some detail. I'll fill out another row of the bigger bits and zip this back and forth. Okay, I'm gonna park it down over here because it's sort of the way the color goes along here and down. Makes more sense than going here up and then back down. That would, at least to me it does anyway. It's nice at every event that we go to, they have shuttles to take people home, but also they have a service that will take you home and drive your vehicle home for you if you cannot. So that's really nice. I could have used that, but I decided to just go home on my own. Plus, I don't like leaving when everybody else is trying to leave. That is always not fun. My husband will try to go in the rush, and I'm just like, I don't get it. I sit there in my car. I wait for 15-20 minutes for most people to leave, and then I go. And it's less stressful. And I get out about the same amount of time because he'll spend that time, 10-15 minutes fighting through the crowd with the vehicle. So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't get it. I would rather just sit there in my car, read an ebook or something on my phone for 10-15 minutes and then go. Because I said, and the one time I didn't do that, I got rear-ended. Darn it. My son didn't drive yet, and my husband and I had miscommunicated on who was picking him up from school. And he already had him, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to the store and pick up a couple things before I head home. And so I actually got in, trying to get out earlier, and like I said, I think that the truck behind me, I pulled into the flow of traffic, and I think he was trying to cut off somebody else who was trying to pull in behind me and kind of forgot that I was there and zipped ahead and bang. Oh, I was very glad that my vehicle wasn't written off, but and actually my neck wasn't too badly affected, thankfully, because I was always worried about, I have chronic neck issues, and that actually turned out to not be so bad. It was actually my lower back that pardon me, was more affected, and my hip, because my foot was on the brake, and so when he hit me, all of the pressure went into the one hip, the one that was on the pedal. So it messed up my hip and sort of my lower back there. Fortunately, with treatment, it got better pretty quickly. But they give us like I think it's 12 treatments and I only needed about 4. I wasn't as young as I used to be, but you know, 40s is still fairly young when it comes to recovering from stuff. I turned 45 this year. My husband just turned 50 this month. And his coworkers couldn't believe it because he doesn't look that old. And I'm like, okay, but our son is grown. We didn't have him as teenagers, you know. One of our friends says, oh, did you have a party? He said, no. And I said, well, when he turned 40, I asked him, you know, do you want a big party? He says, absolutely not, because we're not those kind of people. I'm like, okay, phew. Because I'm like, if you really wanted one, I would have thrown you a party, but I'm not really a party thrower either. So we're both pretty low key. It's just kind of funny to think of because, like, in my head, his dad is 50, but clearly that's not possible. I saw a meme saying, people will say 20 years ago, and I'll be like, oh, the 80s. And then they'll tell me it's 2006, and then I have to sit down. And I said, honestly, the only reason I know approximately that is that because my son was born around that time, and I know how old he is. So, but I joke that the real Y2K bug was how it broke our sense of time, because it's like 20 years ago was the 80s, 10 years ago was the 90s. 10 years ago was, 2010 was also 10 years ago. We just kind of got stuck there. So there are stitches technically kind of close enough, but the way it's shaped would be kind of awkward to do with this thread. So I'm just going to tie it off. Ooh, try not to knock things over. Tie it off and reattach later. I have my remote controls there on the on the couch arm next to me. I'll try not to knock them on the floor. That gets really loud. I did that once, and I did have to edit it out because I didn't want to make anybody jump. It was really loud. Oh, look at that. I didn't even notice when I crossed the 40,000. Woohoo! Yay! So that was over 8,500 stitches for this month. And I always hope to be about 8,000, so sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go over it. It depends a lot on where in the pattern I'm working. Like when I was working that pine branch in the first pass, that one slowed me down a lot. And the pine cones at the bottom, I imagine, are going to be extremely confetti heavy. I had the same thing with my peacock piece. There was areas of the sky that was very few colors. There was areas on the peacock's chest that was very few colors. And then we get into the tail, which of course was way more detailed. So like I say, it averages out to that, but of course, depending on the level of detail, that really changes things. All right, so that was the color. So I'm thinking I'm going to put this one here and probably carry it across, and another one will go down. That was the reason I tied that one off, was because I was just kind of in a weird in the middle of the stitches kind of place. In town they are finally repainting all the road markings. They were worn off to almost nothing. That's kind of nice. You don't have to kind of try to estimate where the turning lane is, because that's always fun. Well, I guess they were waiting until they'd done the bulk of the road work. And there's a joke that in Canada we have 2 seasons, winter and construction. They have fixed roads in the middle of winter, but they try not to do that. Okay, so this one is the one that actually was supposed to be the sparkly thread, the Krennic or whatever. But I substituted this B5200 Winter White because I hate working with metallic thread. I'll use it for gridding, but not for stitching. I used a gold metallic thread on a project once. It was a kit, and it was such a pain that I swore never again. Like, in the end, it did end up looking pretty good, but it was for a little wedding sampler thing that I made. I just about gave up and was ready to do the back stitching in like a golden yellow instead of the actual gold thread. I persevered, but I said I was not doing that again. Okay, I don't feel like switching colors every stitch back and forth, so I'm going to just stitch these white ones and then stitch those other ones that are in between them. Oh no, actually, part there. Quite a bit of pale coloring here. One point of an antler, there's sort of another point there, and then I think there's another one further down in this pass. Yes, and then there's one tiny little bit of the center one of the center ones at the very bottom of the pass. So most of his antler is in this pass. I was saying I might get to his face before the end of the year, but we will see. That might be a bit too ambitious for me. Oh, I just realized. Oh no, I was almost trying to stitch in the wrong place. No, I am correct. Thought I made a mistake, but no, I didn't. I was about to make one. Then I caught myself. Oh dear. Missed one there. All right, so I'm going to come back up again. Do some of this bigger block again. see, this color's kind of background around the antlers. The rock face and probably a bit of foliage behind the deer. I'm past 100 now for today. So I might even be quarter done by the end of September. We will see. That would be at 50,000 stitches, so we will see. So this color blob kind of goes out here, but I'm just kind of cutting it off around line 200. I'll probably sort of slowly taper it off a bit. And then we'll move over and tackle some more, but I think I've only got one more session for this month after this one. So I doubt I'll have this filled into the bottom. Be nice bonus, but that might be a little too ambitious. Oops, darn it. Caught around my finger on the back, so unthreaded it. Oh dear, that is no good. I don't think there's much more of the waterfall in this pass. Might be a teeny bit, we will see. We might do a couple rows here. Oh, that's not good. Kind of went sideways so it didn't disappear properly. It probably would get covered over, but I'm gonna just try that again. All right, good enough. Again, go back and do some of this bigger block. All right, guys, I'm back. The other half and kiddo came home early, unexpectedly, so had to quit filming because they didn't realize I was still filming. My son walked in, "Oh, sorry, Mom." So that's okay. I'll cut this out. It's all good. Like I often say, I don't have a studio. This is not a professional operation, so these things happen. I had two glass jars on the table there, and they were clanking together. That was annoying. I probably need to replace this table. It's getting really bent. It's this sort of the one that doesn't have legs on the one side, so it can go over the edge of the couch, because I wanted to be able to bring my tablet really close to me. And a TV table was not going to do the job. But I couldn't find a wooden one. I could only find this plastic one at Canadian Tire, and it's starting to wear out. I think I got it, sheesh, 5 years ago, something like that. Because the ones I could get that were like the hospital grade, that are much better in wooden, but they were pricey, obviously, and I would have had to specially order it as well, so I didn't. Maybe I will at some point. Because as I said, this one is, it's actually starting to get so bent that the my tubs of envelopes don't always want to stand up anymore, because the tilt is getting to be a bit much. I may have to invest in a better one. The problem was most of the tables too were really skinny and long, and I wanted more of like a TV tray table size, but one that could come up over the edge of the couch, so it could be right up close to me. I'll have to search. Maybe I'll have to have one made. My problem too is a lot of stuff I have to order from out of the country, and you never know what customs fees you're going to pay a lot of times until the package is there. And like I say, it's really up to who you get as a customs agent, because I had twice I ordered from this one place, and I didn't pay any import, and then I ordered again from the same place, same kind of stuff, and I ended up having to pay, it was clothes, and I ended up having to pay like 30% in extra customs, so I was not thrilled. But it's harder and harder to shop local. My local mall, there were like 4 clothing stores that were going out of business the last time I was there. And I was surprised. It was summer. I was thinking they would hold on for like back to school, but I guess not. And sometimes too, it's not just my local store, it's the entire chain, I think. Because I really liked, we had a Canadian chain, I think it's Canadian anyway, but it's a chain in Canada that it's called the Jean Warehouse, and it was where I would always get my jeans, because they wouldn't just have like small, medium, large, or like, you know, size 6, 8. They actually measured for women's pants. Guys get this all the time, but for women it's rare, where it would actually go by your waist measurements. So I could go and grab a pair off of the rack and know that they would fit me. And they had a good return policy in case they didn't, but they always did. And so I am sad, and I thought, is it just the local one that's shutting down? But I went online and looked, and no, the whole chain's going out of business. So darn. There's a few Canadian ones that are gone. There was Mariposa in the 90s. We liked that. There was Le Chateau, which was more, they sold some casual clothes, but they sold more fancy stuff too. And they're gone now. And what was the other one? There's Ardeen. I'm not sure if they're still around, but at the very least, the one where I live is gone. There's Blue Notes. That was closing down. Bootlegger was closing down. Of course, by the time I found out they were closing down, like, all of the clearance stuff was picked over, so there was nothing left. Okay, this is just not going to be enough to finish this row, and as you can see, I've got a lot of this color coming up anyway, so need a new strand. There was a place called the Soapberry Shop, which was kind of like the Body Shop, but it was a Canadian one. That one went out of business. I liked them. They had some really nice body sprays that weren't overpowering. A lot of perfumes I find are very overpowering. They give me nausea and headaches, and so I can't wear most of them. And this place had these really nice, I had a raspberry one, I think, and an apple one, and they were really nice, and like I said, they didn't trigger any nausea or headaches, and now they're gone, so darn it. There was a one called House of Brussels Chocolates. They made some nice specialty chocolates, but they're gone. Purdy's Chocolatier is still around. They're a Canadian company, but of course the price of chocolate has gone up quite a lot. In the last few years, there have been shortages and such, and I often, for Christmas, that's what I give to what we give to my father-in-law is a nice big box of the specialty chocolates. But that's starting to get pretty pricey. Honestly, I would have preferred not doing gifts anymore because I find it stressful. And I don't need more stuff, right? When my mother-in-law was still with us, she passed a couple of years ago, coming on to 3 years actually. When she was still with us, there was one year that instead I gave them a dinner theater tickets in their local, where they lived. So they really enjoyed that because they had so much stuff, and I would rather give an experience at that point because, like I said, my mother-in-law was a bit of a hoarder. It's not so bad now after she passed away. One of my husband's sisters and her wife moved in, and they helped to declutter a lot of stuff. So it was nice. They had a big Facebook group messenger chat, and she would post pictures of stuff to see if anybody wanted to claim it. And my mother-in-law had something like an entire room stuffed full of boxes of Christmas decorations. She had so many. Oh my gosh. Like, I love Christmas, but I don't have that many decorations. But, so they had a big snowman and a penguin with little, like, Christmas scarves and hats and stuff on. And I said, well, if no one wants those, I'll take them. Don't need to take them to the thrift store, so. So they're part of my decor now. And it's funny because I never actually saw her use them. Like I said, she had a whole room full of stuff, so they probably were staying in a box and didn't get used. Yeah, it was funny because she asked me the first year my husband and I were together, and she asked me what theme I had for my Christmas tree, and I was like, theme? And yeah, apparently she has so many decorations that she had different themes. So one year it would all be like blue and green. Another year it would be all angels. Another year would be something different. And I was just like, oh, I just have like the same box of decorations and they just go on the tree every year. We don't have that many to go to themes. And when I was a kid, I was so sad. We moved and my grandpa accidentally threw the box away. I think he opened it and peeked inside, and I think he thought it was junk because he saw, like, the stuff my sister and I made in kindergarten and stuff like that. I think he thought it was, and so I'm not sure, but unfortunately that made me really sad because all the stuff that we had made over the years was gone, and you can't replace that, right? Maybe they weren't the best made things, but they had the memories, right? Almost every year, I think, maybe even every year, when her kids were little, she bought them a new decoration sort of every year. And so by the time they were old enough to leave home, she would give them all of their decorations. So we have a whole box of my husband's, and we can't even use them all because our tree's not that big. We'd need one of those like 12-footers or something to use it all. Not our little 6-footer tree. We had an angel for a while. She gave us one that actually you plugged into your lights, and she was holding candles, and so they would light up. So that was pretty cool. But then a few years ago, I saw a tree topper that looked like the Nintendo star from like Super Mario, the one that gives you what you might call it, makes you immune to dying, makes you invincible. That's it. Couldn't think of the word. And so I bought one of those. That has been our tree topper ever since. And it was funny, my sister said, I feel like I should grab it and then run around your house really fast collecting stuff. I said, just don't fall off a cliff, because that was the only thing that could defeat you in the games. If you fell into lava or you fell off a cliff, then you would still lose a life. But other than that, you were invincible. So I might make 41, maybe even 42,000 by the end of this month. We will see how it goes. I prefer to set myself a more conservative estimate, and then if I go over it, bonus. Then I don't feel anxiety if I don't make it. I figured I would manage more than my normal amount this month, but like I say, I don't like to stress myself out about it. So I'd rather set a lower, more attainable goal and then surpass it. My Excel spreadsheet is estimating I will be done this by early 2028, but I think I might manage to. Well, we'll see. That's another year and a bit away. So it could be accurate. We will, like I said, we will see. You never know what life might throw at you, right? Okay, well past 200, but I'm going to do this row and then I think I'll call it a day. 214 and past that 40,000, past 20%. So yay! Thanks so much for watching and hope to see you here next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.